What up? It's your buddy Incredible, and yes, I am back at it again. And this is For Life Season 1, Episode 2 discussion slash review. And this episode was, if you ask me, this episode was a lot more slowed down than last week's episode. Last week's episode, it being the pilot, kind of just threw us into the world and kind of showed us in glimpses of everything, how it transpired, of him going to jail and everything. And it kind of just rushed us into the world. We see him diving straight into a case, setting someone free from prison and everything. But this episode, we stayed within the prison most of the episode. We went out twice, for him anyway, and we stayed within the prison most of the episode. And we saw him handling stuff on a daily basis, how he does in prison, where he has actual cases and helps out as the prison rep, and him actually having cases in prison, or a trial in prison. And we saw him suing the NYPD to get his case file, which it did not work. So this episode, it felt more contained than the first episode. If the first episode, it being the pilot, kind of wanted to introduce us to the world, I say this episode was kind of more of a structural building and introducing us to Aaron as a character more so than it was in the first episode. Excuse me, because I felt like this episode, we got to see him more as a character. And in every scene that he was in, this dude commanded your presence. Let's be real. You saw that even in the first episode last week. But he commands your presence when he's on the screen. Like, you can't take your eyes off him acting out this character. And it was so good because you're drawn to him every time he's on camera. A lot of stuff transpired this episode. We see him kind of going in depth with the warden, and also having like an intimate conversation about why he really wanted to sue to get his case files, and could he possibly do anything else that wouldn't hinder her wife's chances of running for DA. And we see him having a little more heartfelt moment with his daughter. Him talking to his ex-wife, and he had a sit down and face-to-face with his daughter's boyfriend slash father. I mean, baby's father. And we got to see him work within the prison walls and be more involved with the inmates themselves. Now, one thing that I really enjoyed this episode was him having a trial within the prison and staying in the confines within the prison this episode. He got out a couple times, but he stayed within the prison pretty much this whole episode. And we got to see a little bit of the structural part of what's going on at the prison. So we have the white guys, aka the Aryans, and we have the black guys. And as always in the prison show or whatever, they're feuding. But because the Aryans helped him out last week, he kind of owed this dude a favor to help get that one particular Knox guy out of solitary. Now, with him doing that, he also had to have a trial, but then he had to investigate the trial as well. So him investigating the trial found out that Knox wanted to be in solitary to be safe. He was trying to escape from the head guy from the Aryan group. And we learned this episode that Knox was having an intimate relationship with his cellmate. And I don't know if he loved him or not. They didn't really just discuss that. It's just that they were having an intimate relationship. And that's why the head Aryan guy dude wanted him out of solitary. He wanted to get him because he got his medical records and found out that they beat the brakes off this dude and that he had syphilis. So, there's a lot of stuff going on. But he wanted him out of solitary so he can get a hold of him and probably kill him, probably. But Aaron, being such the good guy that he is, he got him out. And that's the funny thing that happened at the end of this episode too. He got him out. And he talked the warden. He told the warden what was going on and everything. And he talked the warden into I keep saying warden into transferring him to another prison so he wouldn't be around that. Knox, was it Knox? I'm getting the names mixed up. I want to say Knox is the head or Aryan guy. I feel like he's the head Aryan guy. But anyway, he got the dude out of solitary and got him transferred from another prison, and the cellmate transferred as well. And that kind of bridged his relationship back with the the other black dudes in the prison, because at that point, you know, they were kind of having a rift because they didn't want him representing the Aryans. And, you know, understandable. But in the long run, you know, he still represented this dude, got him out. And that was the funny thing when he told, I want to say it's Knox, when he told him that, he said, well, I got him out. It's just not the out that you wanted. I got him out of the prison completely. So it was nice to see that. And you see how everything transpired with, like, the black group. He really wasn't really clicking with them, but they were like, well, hey man, I don't know what you're doing, but you cannot keep helping the Aryans out. So, and it was nice to see that. And if for some reason, man, it felt real, like the him interacting with the prisoners, the other inmates, and the guards and everything. It felt real. In a lot of TV shows, you're like, well, okay, well, they're in prison, so, you know, but it felt real this time. It felt like they actually took time to develop these characters on paper and then let the actors kind of just have their way with them and just kind of bring them to life in a glorious form, because everybody played a part, even like the characters that had minor roles and they were just speaking maybe like a few lines of dialogue. It felt real. It felt like a real prison, and that was nice. So this episode, we also see that he wanted to meet his daughter's anyway, he wanted to meet his daughter's baby daddy. So he wanted to meet him, and he ended up meeting him. The dude was a little shy to meet him, but he ended up meeting him. So he met him, and they had a talking discussion, and he told him all this stuff, and he was like, well, don't you ever let my daughter sacrifice all this stuff. So he was laying out all this stuff, and the dude was just listening and taking it in, but you can tell he felt some type of way. He was like, well, how can you tell me all this stuff when she's sacrificing all this stuff for you? But now we didn't know none of this until the end of the episode, and now I understand why he was looking at him that way when he was at the prison. So he looked at this dude, and he tells him at the end, was like, because the whole time his daughter was there when he went back to talk to the judge about getting his case from the DA's office. And they just straight shut him down. They were lying, of course, and that's one thing I don't like about this show. Everything else, it works so well and it plays so good, but the whole DA aspect and like all of these crooked lawyers and everything is so spot on. Like, there's no mystery behind it. There's no, well, are they crooked? It could just be like it's all laid out on front. And I felt like if you're trying to build a TV show, you know, keep it a little mysterious. Like, as of right now, it's all laid out on front with the DA and the DA's office. They're crooked. It's out in the open. But they shut down his whole thing about him getting this case. And his daughter was there, and she was hurt and crying and upset that he didn't get it because, you know, she wants him to be out by the time her baby's born. But then she goes home and everything. He goes back to prison. He's upset. She's upset. And she calls her boyfriend to pick her up. And she had to wait 3 hours. And it takes 5 hours to see her dad in prison. So there's a lot of different circumstances that we're not seeing in the actual episode. And I love that because her boyfriend laid that out in the open for us as viewers and for her dad as well. Because he was like, well, you kind of snapped in court and stuff, but I'm worried about her. I don't care. No disrespect. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about her. And I don't want her driving 5 hours to see you every time you turn around, and her going to see you in court and be so disappointed and hurt and having to wait. And she sacrificed so much stuff for you. You telling me not to give up and make her give up her dreams and stuff. She sacrificed all this stuff for you. She could be doing so much better if she had went to California, but she decided to give that up so she could be closer to you. And he just laid it all on Front Street. And his ex-wife wasn't upset that Ronnie done that. And I was a little perturbed by Ronnie saying that, but by the end of the episode, it kind of dawned on me, and I was like, yeah, man, it's kind of right, because all that extra stress is not good for the baby. It's not good for her. And you got to understand where this man's coming from. Because as of right now, yeah, she's still your daughter, but they got a baby together. That's his baby mama. They got a child on the way. And this dude, he loves her. And, you know, he talked about marrying her. They're just going to do it a little bit earlier now because, you know, they got a baby on the way. So, wow. So, yeah, I understand. He cares for her, and she's going to be his responsibility. So, I understand where Ronnie's coming from. It's just that, you know, and at the end, Aaron couldn't even, he couldn't argue with Ronnie because he knew Ronnie was right. And that's the sad thing. But it's also a good thing because Aaron, I feel like he's going to learn something from that whole situation, and he's going to go about his case in this whole situation completely different. And I like to see the fact that the DA kind of realizes why he's in such of a rush now. She went back and watched the security cameras and saw that his daughter's pregnant. He was touching on her belly. So she understands his need for urgency to expedite his case files in his actual case to try to get out of prison. But like I said, I almost forgot. We also got to see his mentor, the person that signed for him to be able to get his license, his lawyer's, what is it? Not medical license, that's doctor. Law license. To actually practice law. And it turns out that he used to work for the DA's office too, and he knows the district attorney. And he didn't really come out and say it, but he was like, well, we done some underhanded things when I worked for you. And the dude was like, where we were upholding the law, but he was like, we done some things that were actually questionable. And the dude we learned that he had 2 previous DUIs, and he's on suspension right now. So this man had an epiphany in his life about the bad things that they done, and that's why he signed on and decided to help Aaron. And I'm okay with that. But we learned that, you know, that he worked with the district attorney back when they were both district attorneys. Like, he's the DA now, but like when they were ADAs, assistant district attorneys. Wow, man, this I give it credit. Like, I like the fact that this episode we settled and they were actually working inside the prison instead of actually having to go to court to actually have a case. They brought a judge to the prison, and the warden sat in, and like the CO sat in, and they questioned some of the COs. So a trial actually took place inside the prison, and that's what I enjoyed about this episode the most. And I love the fact that we got to see a different side of the episode. It's not of the show. It's not just him going straight to court every time and week in and week out handling cases. It seems like he's going to be handling cases at the prison as well. But that's all for this episode, man. This is your boy Dick Incredible. Don't forget to smash that like button so you can't smash it anymore. Comment down below and I'll be sure to respond to each and every one of them, and subscribe. But only if you really want to, man. Peace out.